Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Hey you Hillmaniacs, it's Hillmanator, and today, you might have noticed, there's a guest with me. Who are you?
I'm Simon. Josh says I'm his friend, but you know, let's not push the boat out. I'm just here.
Accurate. How long have you been watching the show that we're going to be discussing today?
Wow. Well, I started watching it back in the UK in 2005 when it first was rebooted, and then I carried on watching it after I moved here a year or so later, and I've gone back and watched a sort of handful of classic things, but I've been fairly consistent since about 2005, yeah.
Nice. Largely the same as me then. I've been watching since 2005, as you guys know. Just watched it since then.
Well, neither of us were born for any of the other stuff.
No,
so.
It might have been odd if we had have watched the classic era before we were born. It's Doctor Who.
Also, there's a title.
Yeah.
I assume. Yeah.
Presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't let you upload it if there's not a title.
No, and also, why would I upload the video and not title it something around Doctor Who? I need them sweet, sweet views.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you have lots of subscribers, right? I don't get out of bed for anything less than the sort of 100,000. We'll talk later, it's fine.
Can you tell how confident I am in front of the camera?
Oh, very confident, I'm loving it.
Series 12 has recently wrapped up. I say recently, it's been a couple of weeks, but to be honest, I was busy. Leave me alone.
And that's how you maximize things on the YouTube algorithm, right? You wait till it's just finished, and then you give it 2 weeks, and then the algorithm will really push this video forward.
The trick is to wait until it's no longer relevant.
Yes.
And then that's when
that's the content that people love. They love irrelevant things.
Exactly.
I mean, that's actually true. That's why BuzzFeed exists, right? People love irrelevant things.
Does that mean people love me? You guys know that I have opinions about Doctor Who in general. I thought it might... Pardon?
I said, oh boy, does he.
Oh, yes. I thought it might be nice to convey my views of the series. Maybe give you an updated look at the graph that I did last time I reviewed all of the seasons, although I might do that in another video because content. And just have a discussion about...
Yeah, I guess I have to disagree with you for sweet, sweet content.
I mean, you can if you want.
I definitely will. I already know that I disagree with you in some respects, but not all. So let's dig into it.
Okay, so general thoughts about the series as a whole.
I should start out by saying that I quite liked the season before, which I know that a lot of people were not too keen on. I really liked Jodie Whittaker. I really liked the companions. I thought some of the dialogue for her in the season before the one just gone was not as good. But that's kind of my general thoughts going into the Series 12.
Okay.
And then hitting Series 12, as a whole, I've enjoyed it. I've liked the companions. I've liked Jodie Whittaker, whose the writing for her is generally improved, I would say.
Yeah.
And on the whole, I would say I enjoyed it.
Okay. Good.
There are some major asterisks that come with that, which we will get to.
There are always major asterisks with Doctor Who. It's just the way the show works.
Yeah. You
guys should know how I feel about it in general, the previous seasons, based on my last video. If not, annotations somewhere up there. It's a shameless self-promotion. Woohoo. But this series, I'll be honest, I didn't particularly enjoy it.
Well, there we go.
But I didn't dislike it. I am by no means going along the nerderotic route of just everything sucks. There have been some genuinely good ideas and stuff in this series, and then there have been others where it's been a bit cramped. I feel like a lot of the episodes have been fairly...
I would agree with that as well. Lots of good ideas crammed into too few episodes.
Yeah, and not explored enough, I feel.
Definitely. More of that towards the end rather than at the beginning, I would say as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But in general, I mean, it's a passable season. It's, in my opinion, far better than a lot of the Moffat era.
Yes, I would agree with that as well. It's an improvement on most of the things that have come before it for at least the last few years.
Yeah. But I don't think it quite reaches the really great Doctor Who tier that I hoped it would, unfortunately.
Yeah, on general I agree with that. But we'll dig down into more of it, I guess.
Yeah. So, shall we go into episode by episode specific?
Yes, I'm gonna now look at my phone because I have a list of episodes on it, which is definitely not Wikipedia. Otherwise, this will be a lot of you saying, "What did you think of this episode?" And I'll be going, which one was that? I've already forgotten.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start at the beginning with the two-parter, Spyfall.
Okay.
I quite liked these as an opening. I really like, God, I can't remember his name, but the new master.
Sacha Darwin.
That is it. He is excellent. He's excellent in basically everything I've seen him in, and this is no exception.
Yeah, I've only seen him before in An Adventure in Space and Time, but he was really great.
Yes, he is in that. That's right.
Yeah.
He's very good in the new Dracula thing.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Just watch the first 2 episodes and then don't watch the last one.
Okay.
We'll talk later. It's fine. We'll do an episode on Dracula, maybe. I can do whatever because I'm the guest. You have to live with the consequences of this, right?
I have to deal with all this.
Dracula, we promise. But yes, I quite liked these episodes. Nice solid little plot. Went very hard into the Google is stealing your lives stuff towards the end.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Again, it comes back to that thing we were saying before. There was a lot in it. But I think it worked in a 2-parter rather than a 1-parter.
Yeah, I'd agree. It definitely needed to be a 2-parter because if that had been a single story, then...
So did we know that he was the master beforehand? Because I've not kept up with any of the news related to this. I know that John Sim coming back was spoiled ages and ages ago, deliberately by the BBC. Were they smarter with it this time around?
They were.
Okay, they're learning. That's good.
Yes, they actually listened.
Because I really enjoyed that reveal.
I think the reveal, if you take it out of the context of the episode, is a great reveal.
Yes, just because it's based on an amazing pun, which is like, that's what I live for.
But when you put it in the context of the episode, like, there was no way that the audience could have worked it out. If they had like, Stephen Fry at the start of the episode just go, hey, he
appeared out. Yeah. That's true, but I don't know. I think it still works, definitely.
It does still work.
And his kind of screen presence makes it work, even if it doesn't.
Sacha was flipping amazing as the master throughout this entire season. Whenever he appeared,
best since Johnson, would you say? I mean, we've only really had one in the interim.
Michelle Gomez.
Who wasn't bad either. I mean, they've all been pretty solid, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of Michelle Gomez, but she did work well with Capaldi.
Orphan 55. Wow. So I've said this to Josh before. But I was like a sort of half a week behind on watching a lot of these, and I saw a YouTube thumbnail, which is presumably from a YouTuber with a lot more subscribers than you.
Absolutely.
And it was a very clickbaity thing of Orphan 55 is the worst Doctor Who episode ever. A lot of you have probably seen it. And I didn't watch the video, but I looked at that thumbnail and thought, oh, that's probably a bit over the top. And then I watched the episode, and I kind of agree. We've talked about this, but I'm struggling to think of a worse episode, at least since 2005. Like, there's one. I know there's ones that you personally, for very specific reasons, have problems with. Yeah. But I think in terms of like structuring and narrative building and plot reveals, there has not been anything worse in Doctor Who. This was...
In terms of a single episode structure, Orphan 55 was pretty darn terrible.
Yeah.
It doesn't do as much damage to the overall season as, say, Hellbent. But
in terms of just a filler episode...
in terms of a filler episode, it's pretty naff. No. If they had have made the central premise that they were on Earth, and we had known the entire way through, I think it would have worked better.
Possibly, but I don't know.
Because...
Again, it wasn't that it was a bad idea, it's just that it was completely incoherent. Yeah. Also, the villains were humans or trees or something.
Yes, also it was climate change and nuclear war.
No, I think it was just climate change.
Then why in the flashes do they show a footage of a mushroom cloud?
Because that's what happens if you don't recycle.
Oh.
Has no one told you this, Josh? If you don't recycle, the world explodes. And you turn into a tree monster.
Recycle.
Yeah. That was quite fittingly the other thing that was wrong with this episode, which it ended with just basically direct-to-camera climate messaging, which I'm not opposed to, obviously, or definitely, but it's not... It was very unsubtle in its messaging. I think they did it better later in this very season, which is interesting.
Yeah.
They did it twice, and this one was definitely the worst one.
I don't even think it's the fact that it was so unsubtle. I think it's the fact that it, like, the climate message kind of just appeared in the last 10 minutes.
Yes, when they figured out it was Earth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why I was saying if it had been, like, spread throughout the entire episode, then we could have had that scene and it wouldn't have felt so unnatural.
It also lent very heavily into something which Doctor Who leans into occasionally, which is that, like, when they go to the future, it might not be our future,
potential future,
and that was the messaging, wasn't it? Like, this is the potential future, but if world leaders do good, then it won't be. Like, oof.
Get on it, Boris.
Yeah.
Because you're clearly watching my videos.
Imagine if he was. That would be great.
Oh, that would be terrible.
All right, episode 4, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
I really like this episode.
Yeah. Good, solid episode. Liked the guest characters.
Yep. I think the actor who played Tesla in particular did a good job.
I think it's done a very Doctor Who-y thing of picking a really good historical figure and just having like a decent story around them, but it's still mostly about interacting with them as characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good.
Yeah. The only real complaints that I have about the episode is like Edison, they just completely portray him as just the worst person ever, and never give him.
Is that
like,
entirely inaccurate? I don't know a lot about Edison, but the stuff that I do know sort of portrays him as the worst person ever.
He was a massive pain in the backside to everyone, but
especially Tesla.
Yeah, but Tesla also had some like.
Yes, almost certainly. Yeah. But I feel like it comes back to like Doctor Who is ultimately a kids show, and I feel like in terms of teaching kids something, this would take a very good route through it. And it's 45 minutes. You don't have time for that sort of deep characterization of these two. Yeah. It's much easier to go, this one's good and clever, this one is dumb and mean.
And then the only other complaint I have is like at the end it was the Doctor who really faced off against the I think it was the Skifra Queen.
Yeah, I just think of her as like the not as good Rachnos.
I think of her as Rani from the Sarah Jane Adventures, because that's literally the actress.
Ah, well there you go. There's a bit of trivia for you.
The more you know.
See, it's not just very late reactions. It's also trivia.
Yes.
Subscribe.
I hate when people do self-promo, and now I've done it twice in my own video now.
And I'm just going to keep doing it because now I know it annoys Josh.
Oh, I hate it.
Fugitive of the Judoon. Shall we put aside the big things that this episode started leading up to?
Yeah, we're just going to focus on this episode
as an episode. As an episode, I thought this was good. I liked Jodie Whittaker's riffing with sort of lines taken from the Tennant era of a Judoon, a platoon of Judoon near that lagoon. It's more of a canal, really. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I think the first half of the episode is very solid. And then they insert like 4 extra side plots, and suddenly it's all very chaotic.
Yeah. This was the point in the series though where I know we said we'd put aside the things that it's leading up to, but it's kind of hard not to. Not to talk about them. Which this is where I was quite interested by where it looked like the plot was going.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it could have some very interesting reveals which could have played out in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Even if we're just talking about the stuff that's purely in this episode, Barrowman coming back, he slipped right back into that role. It was he never left.
I'm a bit disappointed that he didn't get to interact with the Doctor.
Jodie,
but I presume that's deliberate and they're leading up to it. Unless it was a massive scheduling conflict and they just had to write around it, which seems unlikely.
I have a theory that they're planning on doing it next season because...
Well, it would make sense for if anyone's going to rescue her from Judoon prison. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
And also, we're in the spoiler section by now.
Okay, that's good.
Also, there's the fact that while that episode was airing, John Barrowman was in Cardiff for a significant amount of time, so contract negotiations maybe?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I forgot to mention, Fugitive of the Judoon. Yaz gets told, I'm going to do my police officer stuff.
Yeah, which I thought was missing from the previous... Yeah, police officer stuff was very much missing from the previous series, and they tried to do some in this, and it didn't quite pan out. What was after that?
It was Praxeus, yes.
What was this one? Oh, that...
Plastic.
Right, yes. So this was the one that I thought was the better climate messaging of the series.
Yeah, it does handle it much better.
Yeah, and it takes an issue which I think a lot of people are aware of, but I think, again, it's a kid show, maybe not a lot of kids are aware of it.
Yeah,
and people are aware of it to the extent of, like, everyone has plastic inside their bodies right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of microplastics, people vaguely know microplastics, but generally when you think of plastic pollution, it's just
the oceans,
bottles
which is
in
where
the
this
sea.
starts, and then it kind of fans out from there.
Yeah.
What did you think of, like, the sort of mystery elements? Because that's how it started. Is that there's always unconnected things which are definitely connected somehow.
Yeah, I thought they were okay, and it did lead to that one really good joke.
What was the joke?
I think it was the Doctor saying about how she spent too much time investigating a squirrel and never considered how the astronaut fed into it.
Right, yes, okay.
But at the same time, it does feel kind of weird that they sent Ryan alone to Peru, and then they had Graham go with Yaz, the trained police officer.
What I found interesting about this was that they did an episode about plastic, but for some reason didn't do a Auton episode.
Yeah, I really thought it was going to be Nesting Consciousness.
Yeah.
But they subverted it and went with something else.
But I'm glad it didn't end up with just people being chased by mannequins at the end, which is probably where it would have had to end up if they'd done that. So
I think there is a way you could do it without that, but
it's not the way
you need to do some explanation. Plus, it kind of stems into a bit more of an adult territory where, you know, if everyone's got all these microplastics within them, and you've got a
real
creature that
like
can control
body horror
plastic.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to that concept that Misfits did a couple of years ago. Well, more than a couple of years ago, because Misfits is old.
I am not familiar with Misfits at all. I know of it. I have not seen an episode. So
basically, there's a character who can control milk, which you would think would be the worst superpower ever.
Oh.
But yeah, he just like straight up chokes people with the milk inside their bodies from their cereal, stuff like that.
Right. Next episode?
Yeah, next episode.
Keep this moving along. Can you hear me? I literally don't remember what this is. I'll have to read the description.
That says a lot about this episode.
This is the one I forgot last time we were talking about this.
Yes.
It's the one with Kevin Lannister in it.
Yeah.
Who's really good. But the episode is entirely forgettable, it would seem, because I entirely forgot it.
There's like the entire part in Syria with the Doctor at the start, and Aleppo specifically, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then the second god that they bring in later on in the episode.
Oh yeah.
What was the point in them?
This comes back to the thing of there was too much going on in too short a space of time.
Yeah.
If this had just been an episode running around medieval Aleppo, that could have been fun.
That could have been so interesting. I would have been so up for that.
And it's like Doctor Who as a Western show doesn't tend to do a lot of stuff like in that part of the world.
It doesn't tend to do stuff outside of the UK.
Well, yeah, there you go. So that would have been a really cool like little bit of history to dive into, which they did tiny bits of. Like there's a throwaway line about the Doctor talking about Islamic doctors of the time who were a lot more enlightened than Western medicine.
Oh.
If we let all the blood out of your body, then you'll get better, right?
Just bashing a hole in your skull. That'll work.
But like more of that stuff would have been fun.
Yeah. But
yeah. Like,
I mean,
was it bad or was it just forgettable?
I think it's just they had too much going on. And also, it does kind of annoy me that the first time we get proper character development from Yaz is like more than halfway through her second season on the show. But
we'll talk more about that later, I think.
Yes.
There's stuff with Yaz that's coming up. So.
Yeah.
Right, next one.
Yep.
The Haunting of Villa Diodati.
We're getting into the
right now. I think
2/3-part finale.
Yes, now I think we have to start talking about the big reveals as they were coming up.
Yes.
This, I think, is if there's an episode in this series that suffers from having too many ideas competing for time, it is this one.
Yeah.
Because half of it is trying to be this the pick a character from history and run around fighting monsters with them for a bit.
Yeah, pure historical sort of thing.
Like we got with Nikola Tesla early in the season. But it's also trying to set up this Cyberman arc
conflict
from later on. And kind of the Mary Shelley stuff gets very much onto the back burner.
Yeah.
The inspiration for Frankenstein, which was supposed to have been on that night in history, is one line.
It's
where she's talking to the cyber controller and she says something like
modern Prometheus.
Are you a man or a machine or some combination of different parts? Which is very Frankenstein and a very cool way to inspire that.
Yeah.
But it's just lost in this void of different competing things.
Yeah. I'm still very confused as to how the Cyberium did everything that it did in that episode.
I can't even remember what it did. Oh, it went into Shelley's brain at one point, and that's why he was gone for most of the episode.
Yeah, he was a ghost, and also not a ghost,
yeah.
and all of the like.
Yeah, because it was trying to be a ghost story and a Cyberman story and a historical runaround story at the same time.
Yeah, I'd say this and not Prisoner of the Judoon. I'm thinking of the Sarah Jane Adventure.
Fugitive of
the Judoon are the two episodes that have the most bloating, I feel.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, I think the actors generally did a pretty good job on this one. The costuming department in particular, it's not something you compliment very often in a TV show, but they did a very good job on that particular episode.
Are you referring to the Cyberman in particular?
Everything in general, but in particular the Cyberman, yeah.
The Cyberman in this has something that frustrates me a little bit, that's kind of run on for a bit, because when they first reintroduced the Cybermen in 2006, it was like they cut your entire body apart and just stick your brain in a cybersuit, and it's got human nerves running through it to mechanical components. But then from then on, it's mostly just been like, you push a person in a Cyberman suit and you just close it, which is basically what the costume is. Yeah, occasionally they'll go back to like the brain thing, but and this is just a guy with half a Cyberman head on top. But I think but the actor is good enough that he carries it off, I feel. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, he's a really good villain. There are some very strong villains in this series. Definitely. Yeah, there were. Yeah. And the scars that they give him really... they sell the conflict that he's been in, even though we don't see the conflict itself. This room is full of flies, by the way, because it's New Zealand in the summer. Yeah, I don't know why, but there are so many flies. One thing we discussed off camera, do you buy the conceit that if Shelley had died, the world as we know it would not exist? No. No, not in a million years. I mean, for one thing, maybe if Mary Shelley had died, maybe. But Percy Shelley, not as influential. And also, like, if they're going down the route, like, technically from a meta-textual point of view, like, Doctor Who wouldn't exist because sci-fi wouldn't exist because Frankenstein wouldn't exist. Which led to our discussion before of, so Doctor Who can influence the real world insofar as the fictional world of Doctor Who is concerned. If Shelley dies in fictional Doctor Who, that means in that universe, writing in sci-fi is not as developed, which means that which means that in our world, Doctor Who wouldn't be written, which means that in the Doctor Who universe, reality wouldn't exist because the show doesn't exist, I think. Yes, I guess. But that is definitely not what they were going for at all. Completely, if you just look at the meta text of everything. But it was entirely just a contrivance to generate conflict in that scene of, do we give the Cyberman what he wants, even though that's what I was specifically told not to do 3 episodes ago. The one thing we were told not to do. Which you know, of course, they're going to do, because that's how narrative works. Yeah, it's still annoying, though. Like, they don't, in my opinion, it's not a good reason. It is in character for the Doctor to be like one person. Yeah, it is interesting, though, that if you wanted to pick a historical figure that you could get rid of and then the modern world wouldn't exist, they had a perfectly good one from earlier in the season. Nikola Tesla. Yeah, that is a good point. And you could have done some interesting things about how he's an inventor. He's he loves science, and then he loves Cybermen. But then he sees where it goes in the far future. Cybermen. Huh. Did we just fix this season? We certainly inspired at least one fanfic writer. Ascension of the Cybermen, I believe. Ascension of the Cybermen. Yeah. Yeah. Starts out very strong, I feel. I don't know. I feel it's quite contrived that there's like 7 humans left in the entire universe. I think it's just saying there were only 7 humans at this one place. Like, I think I feel that's not what they said, but I can live with that, I suppose. Yeah.
the thing that annoys me is how like the Doctor comes with 3 separate things that they'll perfectly stop Cybermen,
And they
all just fail immediately.
The flying Cybermen heads. Do those have human brains in them then?
I guess.
Otherwise they'd just be drones rather than cyber drones.
Yeah. But then also...
Why would you bother putting a head in one of those rather than in like a cyber body?
And also a Shad, as we will eventually discover in The Timeless Children, was trying to go full automation. So they're called drones, so surely they can't, but then they're cyber.
Yeah.
I'm so
Very
confused.
strange. They're trying to get to this portal which will take them somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere with fewer Cybermen, one presumes.
One would hope.
Well, they hoped.
Yeah. To be honest,
yeah.
I think like the entire second act just kind of stretches on forever, and like it feels like it's all build up.
So we were talking about costuming just before. What do you think of the design of the warrior Cybermen? Because we get a few different Cybermen designs in this. We get the classic Cybermen, but without the logo in front. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is always good to see. I really like that design.
Yeah,
and we have the cyber controller design, and then we get these new ones who are kind of a mix of the old, like the classic ones, and the newer guys.
I like the elements of the classic that they brought in.
Yeah.
I think the light on the chest plate still to me feels a bit weird.
Can we agree that it's better than anything from Nightmare in Silver?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean,
if you would disagree with that, I would have had to leave at this point.
Oh, Nightmare in Silver. What did you do?
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
The other thing that I don't like about their design is the little shoulder spikes that they have.
Oh yeah, they did have little shoulder spikes.
For what purpose did they...
Presumably there's some weapon that humanity was employing that specifically targets that shoulder.
I mean, they also had like little spikes on their fists, so presumably Cybermen were going around punching people and stabbing them with their spikes.
I feel that's unnecessary. If you get punched by a Cyberman, you're dead already, right?
I mean, one would assume, and even if you don't...
They also have electricity in their hands.
Like, they can just delete you.
Yeah. Did it always strike you as odd that Cybermen kill so many people when their goal is to make more Cybermen?
Yeah.
Like, you're electrocuting them, you could just stun them. But the other thing that's going on in this episode, which I know you were a big fan of, and you really enjoyed how this came together in the final plot, was the cutaways to the Weird Irish plot.
Oh yes, the cutaways which no character ever acknowledges. So
did you go back and watch that again to confirm, because we weren't sure? No one acknowledges it at all.
The Doctor
Even though we later find out that these are images that are being beamed into the Doctor's brain, she doesn't acknowledge it at all.
No,
that's really odd.
It's literally just, this is the end of a scene, here is another scene in a completely different place and time. Back to what we were doing.
Or it's not really Ireland, it's
it's
Gallifrey with a perception filter over the top.
Which, I mean, the fact that there's a perception filter within the Matrix causes some issues anyway, but...
I'm sure it does.
There's so much Doctor Who.
What I like about this is that everyone speaking in there has an Irish accent, which by the Eccleston property means that a lot of planets have an Ireland. And it's hard to talk about this episode without talking about the next one, which is
The Timeless Children. Which, I mean, right off the bat, that name is kind of weird.
So you were saying that the two episodes you mentioned before are where the two Fugitive of the Judoon and the Shelley one, the two that you thought were the most cramped. Yeah. I feel this one is more cramped than Fugitive of the Judoon.
I mean, yes, but also the Doctor does literally nothing throughout the entire episode, so...
Yeah, she just watches visions the entire time.
One thing that I found super ironic, and I only realised this on a second viewing, was
which I have not done, by the way. I've watched all of this once.
In Spyfall Part 2, the Master goes, I could tell you, but why would I? Why would I make it easy on you? It wasn't.
And then he spends all of this episode telling her. Oh my god, you're right. That's really hilarious.
It's beautiful.
I did enjoy this episode on the basis that we just get so much of the Master.
Oh, that was
great. And he's so good.
And the fact that we see it from the Master's perspective
and we get this in... there's even a plot justification for how he can be in two places at once.
Yeah, he's just that awesome.
Just so they can have him on screen for as much as possible, which I appreciate, because, again, he's really good.
He is so good. That actor kills it in this episode.
Yeah, and we get our two favourite villains face to face, the Master and the Cyber Controller.
And then the Cyber Controller gets completely wasted.
Yeah, he just gets shrunk down because he was a moron.
Yeah, all they had to do to make Ashad's death actually matter was have...
Is that his actual name? Okay.
Yeah. Is have him go to attack the Master and then have the Master be like, you seriously think I didn't already realise what you were going to do? Zap. Yeah. That would have made his death more impactful, I think.
So let's talk about some of the ideas that this tries to cram into one thing. So we've got... Let's start with what happened right at the beginning of the season and comes to a head in this season, which is that the Master just destroyed Gallifrey one day. Yeah. Just apropos of nothing. He just did it. He doesn't even explain how. Or not even really why.
We know he can't have used the moment because that would have destroyed the entire galaxy.
Also, all of the Time Lord's weapons of mass destruction were gone by that point.
Yeah. Hold on. Is Gallifrey still in the bubble universe?
Yes, because he said he went to their little pocket universe and then killed them.
So somehow the Master found the pocket universe, entered the pocket universe, discovered everything in the Matrix, and then destroyed Gallifrey.
Yes. Just on a weekend, presumably. Maybe a long weekend? I think we need that extra day to destroy the greatest civilization in the universe.
I mean, the fact that none of the Time Lords saw this coming.
Yeah. Gallifrey really can't catch a break, can it? It was the Time War, and it was destroyed in that, and then it was saved from that, but got shoved into this pocket universe, and then it just got destroyed.
Comes and like shoots their general and gets rid of their president, and then the Master just destroys them
again. Neither of us liked this, did we?
No.
Because there's a lot of stuff you could do with Gallifrey existing in the universe, which now you can't.
Yeah.
Until presumably the next showrunner comes in and brings them back.
Yeah. I mean, as a fan, obviously, I've spent far too long working out what I would do if I was going to be
That feels like a different video, though.
It does, but I do feel
subscribe for more content. Subscribe if you want to know what Josh would do, which you will never get to see on screen because he has no power or influence. But if you subscribe, you might get some eventually, so you know.
And then I won't be able to use the ideas because I will.
Notification bell somewhere, ding it.
Oh, please.
Good job.
It hurts.
Comment. Engagement. Dislike. Dislike gives you just as much engagement as a like. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Well, there you go. Another really good idea. A good idea, which was in this, was the Cyber Time Lords.
The Cyber Masters.
Which were an excellent design as well, and an excellent concept.
I think the only thing I don't like about the design is they've got the tear ducts, but they've also got the sad, frowny face, which I feel like it's a bit too much.
But then we see about 10 minutes of those.
Yeah, and then half of those minutes they're just standing around doing nothing.
Yeah. We see that one of them can regenerate. Do they even kill anyone?
No.
No, they just stand around.
No, one of them kills another Cybermaster, and then that other Cybermaster regenerates.
That's it, yes. You could have pinned a whole, two-part arc on that, I feel.
You could have done a whole season on it if you hadn't wanted. Yeah. But, they decided to get them out of the way quick.
Yeah. Well, presumably the Master escaped, and maybe he took some of them with him, but then we're going into wishful thinking there.
I mean, it is the Master. He will be back, / she will be back. Who knows?
Well, there was an explosion, and just before the explosion, you hear the Master say, "Get in here!" So presumably there was an escape pod, because there's always an escape pod. Oh, one thing I did like about this two-parter was Barristan Selmy from Game of Thrones is in it.
Was he?
He was the old guy guarding the portal. Yeah. He was really underused in Game of Thrones, but used well in this. And it's only 2 episodes, but he did well.
I liked him for the most part, and then the end scene with him comes along where he walks in, the Master is there, with the Cyber Masters all there, stood in a line, and they just don't do anything.
He does the noble sacrifice simply because they couldn't have the Doctor do the noble sacrifice, because then the show wouldn't exist.
And it's a full 2-minute conversation between him and the Doctor, and the Master's just stood there.
These cyber Time Lords, who are the most terrifying things in the universe, just stand there. We'll talk briefly about what was it called? The Death Particle? Which was introduced about 10 minutes before it was used, I feel.
Yeah.
And went from being able to destroy a universe to being able to destroy just one planet.
Yeah, and even then, after it was said that it could destroy a planet, it was then shrunk down. So theoretically, it might have only destroyed that one city.
Like a 10-block radius.
Yeah, it was just that room.
Yeah. Well, all the Cyber Time Lords were in that room, so it's fine.
Yeah, true. The sacrifice would have worked better if it had been someone who we actually had got to know and cared about, because
that's
in like 10 minutes.
I mean, I cared about him, but that's mainly because I really like the actor.
Yeah.
He does a very good line in Old Grizzled Warriors who just keep fighting because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
If we're going back to things that could be fixed, do you think it would have been more interesting to have the cyber Time Lords being what the Master used to destroy Gallifrey? Because that would have been a justification for how he did it as well.
It would have, but then at the same time, where did he get all the Time Lord bodies?
Well, but that's the thing about Cybermen. You just start with a few and build up from it.
Yeah,
I could buy that the Master could take out a few Time Lords and then secretly convert them into Cybermen. Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the big thing, which I'm sure everyone is waiting for.
Yes, the continuity shifting, or does it really event?
Well, you really hate this, don't you?
I don't like it. No, it's really
I'm on the fence for now. I don't feel that it was necessary at all.
That's the thing that annoys me.
But maybe it'll lead to something interesting. I'm also taking it with the caveat of the Master told us all of this, so he's a known psychopath. So let's talk about the first part of this, which I'm not sure about. Why did the Master feel it was necessary to destroy Gallifrey after he found this out? Is it just because he doesn't like having some of his DNA be the Doctor's?
I think that's it. Essentially,
the way they framed it at the beginning was that when the Doctor found this out, she would understand.
To destroy Gallifrey?
Which, no.
No, strangely enough, the Doctor doesn't generally want to destroy Gallifrey.
Yeah, I mean, she never gets the chance. It's just constantly being destroyed. Yeah, she would try, but it's just destroyed by the time she gets there. And she has a time machine, so that tells you how quickly it's there and gone again.
Yeah.
So what does it essentially mean? It means that the Doctor has isn't a Gallifreyan. What was the name of the species? Oh,
a Shabogan.
Well, the Doctor's not a Shabogan. Gallifreyans are Shabogans.
Gallifreyans are Shabogans, which I think is actually a reference to the Deadly Assassin, if I remember correctly.
But it's still a terrible name.
Could
have used literally anything else.
Just use Gallifreyans.
Yeah. So the Doctor is neither a Gallifreyan nor a Shabogan.
Mm-hmm.
She is
from somewhere we don't know.
Yeah.
Potentially somewhere outside of this universe.
And that's where the Time Lords got the secret of regeneration from, but the Doctor theoretically has infinite regenerations, and the William Hartnell incarnation is not, in fact, the first Doctor. There were other ones prior, which is presumably the one that we met earlier. Joe Martin, that we met earlier in the season, is from an earlier version of that.
Yes, I believe so. Also, Rassilon and Omega are no longer responsible for the creation of Time Lord Society. That was Tecteun, apparently. Yeah,
well, I mean, it takes a lot of work to build a society, right?
Yeah, but this episode more or less essentially just went, oh yeah, Tecteun did everything.
But does the general audience watching New Who know who Rassilon and Omega are? Is that
I mean, they should know who Rassilon is. He's appeared quite a few times.
He's appeared twice. And the second time he appeared, I didn't know that it was him until he said, I am Rassilon. So, which was was quite a giveaway. He'd regenerated into someone who wasn't Timothy Dalton.
You didn't know the Master was the Master until he said, I'm the Spy Master.
Good reveal. Good reveal. I put this to you before, but do you think it would have been an interesting plot line that the Time Lords had got the secret of regeneration from somewhere other in the universe other than themselves? And then we had this story of, okay, where? Can we go there? What people live there? What technology do they have?
Yeah, and it also
is it just this one person?
It also leads to an interesting dilemma of, should we even really use regeneration? Because it's not ads to start with.
And it's based off stealing the DNA from this weird kid that we found one day.
Yeah, and like, you can understand the Master would be against that because of various manipulations of the Time Lords in the past. But at the same time, you could have an interesting dilemma of he's still willing to just use whatever the heck he's got because he's the Master, whereas the Doctor's like, meh.
And if there's anything the Master loves using, it's regenerations.
Yeah, he does that a lot. He had done 13 regenerations before the classic era even started.
Most of which we don't see. There's only like 6 or so Masters on screen, and one of those was a child.
And another one was a rubber mask. Sorry, 2 separate rubber masks.
I don't think it breaks any continuity. It doesn't change anything that we knew. It just adds a bunch of things which aren't particularly necessary.
They aren't necessary, and also like
it's also one of those Doctor Who plot reveals where it's weird because it was written like a year or so ago, or however long it took to make this.
Yeah.
And for however many years of Doctor Who before that, there's obviously been no mention of it.
Yeah.
So in all of the thousands upon thousands of adventures that the Doctor has been on, he/she has never met a version of the Doctor that wasn't from this line of regenerations. And
That's a good point.
And River Song has never met any of them either.
No
Because all of her versions of the Doctor, she has pictures of them, and it's literally just the
Master clearly hasn't.
The list of them from Wikipedia.
Yeah, the Master clearly hasn't, because otherwise he would have done this a long time ago, presumably.
Well, maybe that's who all those regenerations of the Master were fighting that we never see.
Ah, yes.
So it explains that, if nothing else, maybe.
Hold on, but they would have been earlier in the Master's timeline then.
But he wouldn't know that, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's very strange and very odd, but I'm willing to pan it out and see where it goes. Don't let me down, Chris Chibnall. You definitely aren't watching this, but don't. Just don't.
I really hope that it's good. I want it to be. And
it's good that you want this show that you like to not be bad.
Yeah.
You have a lot of faith in it, I see.
Well, I've been disappointed for a long time. But I'm refusing to give up hope.
Okay, that's very Doctor Who. That's what the Doctor would tell you to do. Don't give up hope about this show.
Yeah.
This very important TV show.
That's what the Doctor would have me do.
Yeah.
Not like help anyone or be a good person.
Or recycle.
No.
One thing I thought was interesting is that it feels like Doctor Who is starting to come back around in a big circle.
To the 1980s.
Because when Doctor Who started in the 60s, there was very little discussion about anything related to the Doctor's origin. They in fact took out lines that would reference to it because they wanted it to be more mysterious. It's Doctor Who? And then as the series went on, we learned about Gallifrey and the Time Lords and that sort of thing, and
Rassilon and Omega.
Rassilon and Omega. Omega's very cool. I love that.
I really wanted it to come back.
In sort of the 7th Doctor era, it started coming around to this overarching plot line of like the origins of Gallifrey and now whether or not the Doctor was involved in some capacity.
Yeah,
but then it was
cancelled.
But then it was never resolved because it was cancelled. So maybe things are going around in a circle of we start out knowing very little about the Doctor and then we learn more, like the Time War and that sort of thing. And then we come back around to this origins of Gallifrey stuff. So is it about to be cancelled? Is history about to repeat itself?
But the difference is, last time it was cancelled before they showed us the origins of Gallifrey and the Doctor.
But maybe we don't know everything yet, who knows?
I mean, we now know that...
It's too high rated at the moment to cancel it anyway, so it's not going to happen, I imagine.
Especially when you include the international figures.
Exactly, yeah. It's one of the few good things the BBC's got going for them at the moment, so...
Yeah. They need to bring Anthony Head back into Doctor Who, though, playing Mr. Finch. It would be so good, and we would get a return of a villain that wasn't just a classic villain. Like, it would be an interesting way to introduce, like, a new Who villain coming back.
Possibly.
The only new Who villains that have come back consistently have been, the Weeping Angels?
Weeping Angels, yeah.
And, well, we all know how that went.
It certainly was a thing that happened. We can't take that away from it. We had the cliffhanger of...
Oh, yeah.
The Judoon somehow break into the TARDIS.
First episode. I didn't think anything could break into the TARDIS, neither did I. Suddenly, Judoon.
Presumably there was a lagoon in there, which they needed to be nearby.
There was... but could you consider 3 a platoon?
I think if it's of Judoon, then yes.
Ah, okay.
Any Judoon is a platoon. You have one Judoon, you have a platoon of Judoon near the moon.
I mean, I suppose in the relativeness of the universe... anything is near the moon.
What do you want to see from a subsequent season? Very briefly, because I know you have a lot of ideas on this. But just in terms of general themes.
I like that they made Jodie go a bit darker this season.
Yes, I think that worked very well.
I don't think it needs to go too far
I think they've hit the level.
Yeah.
She's really good at the moment. I think if they just keep her at
Yeah,
this
keep
level
her
and
at
keep
this
the
level.
writing consistent for her as well.
They take a little break from the Master for a bit. And maybe
Leave us wanting
Cybermen.
more, definitely.
Like, I mean, we're going to get Daleks next anyway.
That is true.
So we've had the 3 big villains in, like, 3 episodes.
Which I'm not against, to be honest.
No, I'm not against it, but I think I don't want
it is an overcompensation from the previous series where people said there weren't enough villains.
Yeah.
So what it is. Oh, we were going to talk about Yaz briefly.
Ah, yes.
Because I said to you, because they gave Yaz a lot of character moments, specifically Graham just saying she's the best person ever.
Yeah,
Which came
that was
kind of out of
kind
left
of
field.
weird.
But I said to you, are they trying to make Yaz the main companion? And you said that they're trying to get rid of some of the others.
Yeah, I heard that they might be getting rid of Graham and Ryan, which, I mean, I personally am against because I think Graham's the best of the companions.
I think Graham is the best, but I'm not sure they could develop his character very well as a primary companion.
No, not without Ryan.
He's very good. He's very good as a counterpoint to Ryan, and he's mainly just very good as the comic relief.
Yeah. But the only way I can see them getting rid of Graham and Ryan is by having Graham's cancer come back, and you can't leave it like that.
Yeah, that's...
Like, you can't just... That would be a terrible way to end their arc. Just, oh hey, by the way, he's got cancer again. That's... No.
Yeah. I mean, it's pointless speculating. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I think if you had to pick one of the 3, which I don't think you have to do, I think it works with the 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think Yaz is the one to pick.
I think the series could work with the 3 of them, but this last season they had a few too many characters in each episode.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to there's too much in each episode. It needs to be partitioned out.
But if I did only have to pick one companion to stay on, and I wasn't going purely off my bias for Bradley Walsh, then...
The bias that we all have for Bradley Walsh, I think you'll find.
He's just so amazing. Yeah, I'd probably go Yaz, because for one thing, I still feel like she could do with some development in general.
But they did give her some in this. So we gave us why she became a police officer, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
She just needs to do more police stuff.
Yeah.
She needs to be the companion that's also a police officer rather than just being just a companion.
The companion who's technically a police officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as my general thoughts go and where this should go next, again, I quite liked this as a whole. It was a bit overloaded, so that's something to take forward. Make the episodes
strip it back a little.
Maybe split more of it into 2-parters if it needs it, that sort of thing. Again, I'm not 100% against this Timeless Child plot reveal.
Yeah.
But it depends on where it goes and how much of it is actually true.
Yeah.
Again, I'm giving it a lot of benefit of the doubt at the moment. So
I mean, it could be great.
it could be amazing.
I really hope it is.
Make it amazing. Chris Chibnall, we know you're watching.
Yes.
Even though you're definitely not.
I mean, Chris clearly he loves my channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah. Watch Josh's previous videos about Doctor Who, and you'll know that all of his suggestions come up in this series. Definitely. If you've watched them all once and you don't think that's true, watch them all again and then subscribe, and then you'll figure it out.
There's a secret video.
Yeah. You can only get it if you subscribe and put the notification bell on.
Oh,
Ding that bell.
This makes me cringe so much.
But are we finished then?
Yeah, I guess we are.
Shall I do an end card for you? I've been Simon. This has been Josh, or the Hillmanator, as he likes to be called, but no one calls him in real life. Don't do it.
Some people do.
No one I've known.
That's because I mean people back home.
I see. I'll believe you.
Okay.
Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what you think should have happened in this season. Give us your Judoon rhyming schemes. We want to read those. There's so much you could do.
You're too
Tell
good at
us.
YouTube.
I know, I'm a YouTube natural. Your subscribers are going to go through the roof because everyone is going to like and subscribe. Give us a little notification bell for more great content like this. There will be videos to click on here and here. You're going to edit that in, Josh. You're going to make that happen, right? They're going to be here, and there's going to be a thing to let you subscribe here.
I'll put it directly over your face.
Yeah, subscribe on my face. Just right there. Josh, over to you. Give us your final line.
Okay, thanks for watching all. I shall catch you next time.
Subscribe.
What?